Gundam.tk presents Double O Riser. Hey, what's up everybody? Robert 184 2R2B's Gundam.tk, the Master Grade Double O Riser, is about to be transformed from all those parts into that. Even though you can't really call this the Double O Gundam until you actually get the drives on, you have a very skinny looking Gundam here. But my first impression is overall positive because this really does come across as a master grade. When you're looking here and you get all the gray details going up, the clear green parts look excellent there. The backpack, the head is fantastic, and just the little details like the gray here and on the forearms right there, that's a big step up on the 1/100th. With the backpack and drives in though, this is looking exactly how the Double O Gundam should. So right away the proportions work out a lot better. I thought that he'd look a little bit too wide, but actually the shoulders don't stick out that much, and the small drives help for that, and the gray around the drives and in the backpack and on the insides, I was a little bit worried that the drives would be a bit too small compared to the 1/100th, but here I think they've got the balance just right in terms of proportions. In terms of mobility, if you've looked at the parts, you're going to see that the legs are going to be awesome. You're able to get full splits up there, if you don't mind knocking off the side skirts. And the legs will bend all the way back. This gray part slides down. The ankles move like this, and if you open up this part, this is going to bend right down and you can put the toe almost all the way up. So pretty much, and especially if you free up this waist section, which again is going to pop off if you do too much with it though, I don't think you're going to have any problems getting the legs where you want them. The upper body is hyper movable and you're able to rotate the chest. There you go, you could do a 360 if you chose to. And it's going to bend forward and back like this, and it's going to rotate off to the side. So huge amounts, but hopefully because it's symmetrical, there won't be too many balance issues with that. You've already seen that the shoulders can separate if you pop this arm out here, so you're able to have the arms go up here. But of course going up is going to be limited by the backpack a little bit, but that's to be expected. The backpack itself is able to bend back like this if you wanted to put the drives towards the back as if they were boosting. You can bring them forward if you want to set up the shield that we saw in the first episode, but that's about, you're going to get just about a centimeter there. And the arms themselves are able to move up, reach across. You could almost have him touch his other shoulder, so pretty much I don't think you're going to have any issues with mobility with this kit. One other thing of particular note is that the neck is able to bend forward, and even though it's got that green piping going through, you are able to twist it off to the side as he looks at you quizzically. Here we have the Master Grade on the left, and we have the 1/100th non-grade on the right, and a friend and I were talking about the difference between non-grade and Master Grade, and he made the very insightful comment about if you've ever seen Pat Lee's Transformer comics, where basically you take something that's streamlined and designed to be animated and make it look detailed and mechanical. And that right there I think sums these two up to a T. So the details, especially just on the fronts of the legs, again the gray on the inside of the feet shows through. The forearms here are just that much more complex, but in terms of size, you're going to get a little bit more height out of the Master Grade, and the V-fins and the actual top of the head is much taller, but in terms of width, the 1/100th really does have those bigger drives that protrude, and just the whole drive assemblies themselves make him look a lot wider, whereas he looks a lot more designed to be putting an O-riser on. Just a pan and scan, so you can see the differences a little bit more up close. Also huge differences in the complexity of the heads. On the right is Master Grade Exia, sets in his first suit from Double O, and the Master Grade was a big step up from the 1/100th non-grade for here as well. It's got a lot more details, but remember story-wise, this is 4 years after the fact, and it really does look like technology has taken a small leap from the old detailed sort of busy look compared to a slightly more streamlined approach. In terms of recent Master Grades, here we have the original Gundam wing on the right, which of course should be a lot smaller. And for no other reason except for sometimes he doesn't get the attention he deserves, there you have the second Gundam ever made, the Mark II Master Grade version 2.0 on the right. For weaponization, the shields themselves offer a lot of options. Not too difficult putting them on the shoulders, though you will want to have them go on there, take this blue part off and pop it up, and because they are on a gray swivel mechanism, it can be a little tricky to get in there. But this one, the way they stand out compared to the drives, I think they actually add something to the Gundam itself, but just the gray and the gap up there, I don't think this looks particularly attractive. Similar to the front of the forearms, on the back there's a hole that you can take the shield, and if you bend down that gray part you can put that in, but again, with the drives being up there on the shoulder, they're going to get in the way most of the time unless you want to twist this all the way forward, a la the V1 and V2 Gundam. But when you pop that down and you get that in just right, you may actually even hear a clip, and it's going to stay in there fairly well, much better than the Master Grade 00 Quanta, though how useful this is in actual practice, yeah, your mileage may vary, and I have had the arm come off on me a couple times there too, like that. When you attach the two shields together in what I like to call surfboard mode, yes, you are able to have it go behind the drive, so it does work in theory, although I don't really know how good this looks in practice. In the manual, they recommend that you take off these manipulators, the 3-finger trigger finger split, and put on the hard mounts, but actually, because there is a peg on here, and plenty of holes on the actual blade of the swords, they fit in quite well. With the blades in hand, and I'm sure that you can come up with a lot better pose than this, but the legs really do work in getting it wherever you want it to be. But I actually think the Master Grade Red Frame could have competition in terms of who the best swordsman is now. When you turn the sword into its rifle mode, I was sort of hoping that this part would click into the forearm, but you're not going to have any luck. It doesn't either have the reach, and it's not made to be the right size. I'm sure you can pose this yourself much better, but in terms of the drives, they are going to get in a little bit of the way when you're trying to get the arms right up in a shooting position, especially looking down the barrels. But overall, the blasters, with the green on the top, it becomes much more prevalent when they're in rifle mode as opposed to sword mode where you keep them on the inside. And I think that if you had a little bit more creativity with your poses, that you'd actually be sort of happy with some of the results. With a 1/100th action base and the custom mount mechanism that attaches below, the posability of the legs really comes into play because you can move them pretty much wherever you want. And once you get the upper body lined up just right and the drives out of the way, there are all sorts of cool things that you can do with this in terms of posability. To turn the Sword 2s into a Darth Maul style beam saber, you can put that on there and you have this separate piece, so again keep your bag handy, and then put that in there, and then you'll notice that that's where the manipulator will attach into the center. When you grasp with the Solon manipulators, you'll notice that you just slide the fingers on afterwards, after you've got everything already attached to the proper pegs. Aerial pose, double beam sabers, and then if you added the lights with the shield on the forearms and hanging off the shoulders, I really am impressed with the many weapons options that Bandai's been giving on Lead Gundam, sort of going back to Strike Freedom, and Freedom I suppose. But really, you'll never run out of playability with this kit. Finally, the 00 Gundam with his off-forgot regular beam sabers, and I sort of like this pose. Well, it's the exact same pose, but more just the idea of it, because you can put the shields on there, you can put the sword 2s on the hips, they don't seem to get in the way, although you're going to have to be careful that you don't lose these little parts when you're popping the hip mounts on and off. But I think between the regular beam sabers, the sword 2s, and the shields, this guy by himself has all the playability and is an absolute winner in every sense so far. I'm going to wrap up my look at the 00 Gundam here. It deserved its own part just because of how many options it has, but don't forget this is the 00 Riser. So if you thought this guy didn't have enough as is, when you add in the O Riser plus the Sword 3 plus the extra effect parts plus the light, there's a lot more to come is what I'm saying. Anyway, everybody, let me know what you think of the kit down below and the video itself with a comment. Please hit like if you do. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any other videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. Robert184, gundam.tk. Do limit it somewhat there. And though my curtain just turned the gun itself, that doesn't look intimidating at all, does it?